I woke with the taste of smoke still coating my mouth, like something charred had settled on my tongue. The hospital lights were too bright, too clean, too wrong. My father's hand was wrapped around mine, shaking. "Your mother, she didn't make it," he murmured. "And you're the only one who survived." His voice fractured. Mine couldn't. There was no air left inside me to break. I lay stiff in that bed, swallowed by a grief so heavy it felt borrowed from someone stronger. Then a detective stepped forward, expression carved from stone. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "are you prepared to hear what really happened?" That was when the first spark ignited inside me, tiny, furious, forcing its way through the ruin of my shock. Before all of this, the fire, the lies, the betrayal, I believed my life was straightforward. Daniel, my husband, made it seem that way. He had a smile people trusted instantly, soft but sure, the kind that made you forget to second-guess. We met in our university library 8 years earlier. He asked to borrow a pen. I handed him the one I'd been nervously chewing on. He grinned and said he liked pens that held a bit of their owner's thoughts. That should have been my warning. But I was young and charmed, and he knew exactly how to make himself unforgettable. My mother adored him. She'd always say, "A man like that doesn't appear twice." I agreed. I married him fast. Too fast. When the cracks began forming, they were hairline fractures, nothing dramatic. Late nights explained away. His phone suddenly turned face down. Errands he insisted on running alone. But what betrayed him wasn't some cinematic slip, it was a scent. Perfume far too sweet to be mine. It lingered on his collar like a bruise. When I asked gently, he laughed, kissed my forehead, claimed a coworker had hugged him goodbye. It sounded reasonable enough to dismiss. But lies dripped through even the smallest seams. A week later, his smartwatch lit up. A woman's name. A heart emoji. His reaction, not the message, was the confession. He ripped the watch away, hands shaking like he'd been caught mid-crime. My heartbreak tightened into something colder. Art. Patient. I stopped reacting. Stopped confronting. Stopped giving him a single thing he could twist. On the surface I stayed the same wife. Inside I shifted, quiet as snowfall, sharp as ice. I learned everything he thought I wouldn't notice. His spending. His policies. His movements. His lies. He didn't even try to hide anymore. He came home smelling of wine I'd never tasted and perfume I'd never wear. He forgot how to pretend he loved me. Then truth arrived, delivered by the one person he underestimated, my mother. She'd gone to surprise him at work, carrying lunch the way she always did for people she cared about. Instead, she walked in on him arguing in hushed voices with a woman she'd never seen. My mother confronted him. He snapped. Told her to mind her own business. Told her she never liked him to begin with. He didn't realize her phone was recording the entire exchange. She came home pale and shaking but determined to tell me. She never got the chance. Because that night the fire began. Not accidental. Not electrical. Accelerant. Multiple ignition points. The investigator told the detective exactly what the policy reports already hinted at. 2 life insurance plans, both new, both in Daniel's name. One for me, one for my mother. The detective didn't soften the blow. He planned to kill you both. My grief didn't even have time to settle before something colder swept in and replaced it completely. The police hid me under an alias. No public information. No mention of survival. Daniel believed his plan had worked flawlessly. Revenge wasn't assigned to me. It belonged to me. While he played grieving husband, I traced every move he made. He'd already moved his mistress into our house and was preparing to collect the insurance money. He told neighbors I wouldn't want people making a big deal about it. Of course he did. I waited until he scheduled his final meeting with the insurance adjuster. Then I logged into my mother's old email and sent him one sentence. "We need to talk tonight. Guilt is a leash." And he wore it. He arrived at the ruins of our home after dark, stepping through the doorway with a flashlight and the nerves of a man who knows he's being hunted. "Hello?" he called, trying to sound brave. I stood where the kitchen had once been. "Daniel." He spun toward me. His face drained of every color except fear. You're alive?" Not relieved. Not shocked. Disappointed. He rushed into a storm of excuses, tears forced, stories scrambled. I let him spin his own trap. Then I pressed play on my mother's recording. His voice filled the burnt skeleton of the house, cold, furious, undeniable. He staggered back. "You don't understand." "I understand exactly." And right on cue, blue and red lights poured through the broken windows. The officers had been listening from outside the entire time. His panic, his confession, captured perfectly. As they cuffed him, he lunged toward me. You set me up. I finally exhaled. No, I said. You set the fire. Now, every morning at dawn, I visit my mother's grave. Something about the light feels different. Softer. Warmer. The kind of sunrise that feels earned. Justice isn't loud or dramatic. It's deliberate, steady, precise. The night I stood in those ashes, I learned something important. He burned our life to the ground. I simply made sure he stood in the wreckage long enough to see the truth.